Greetings and welcome to another Top 10 App Lab list where I check out some of the best App Lab games you can get for your Oculus Quest right now. Now this is one of many parts where I check out the best App Lab and side quest games for your Oculus Quest. So if you want to check out those previous parts, I'll leave that playlist in the description below and in the card above. Now some of the comments I get in the comment section are like this one. I don't see Pavlov, am I missing something or something? Pavlov?
He didn't mention Pavlov!
Now I do have Pavlov, it is in one of the previous parts. Like I said, I got many parts to this series where I cover just a ton of different App Lab games. But if you feel there is a game I have missed out that's worth checking out, let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your suggestions. I will check it out and perhaps I'll include it in a future Top 10 App Lab list, who knows. Now if you like this video, hitting the YouTube thumbs up button really helps me out. And if you like it enough to even consider subscribing, that would be much appreciated. I have timestamps in the description below so you can skip to the part of the video that you want to check out the most. And if you've listened up until this point, I have a surprise for you. I have 2 game codes to give away for the App Lab game WARCHASM. Now WARCHASM is featured in this video so you can check out the game, see if it's a game that you want to play, and if it is, leave a comment in the comment section below, let me know that you'd like to be in the chance of winning a game, and what I'll do, I'll select a winner at random from the comment section. So I think that's about it for the intro. I do have a little guide on how to find and buy App Lab games right at the beginning of this video too, so if you're unsure how to do that, you can check that out. But if you know already, you can just skip that part, of course. All right, let's check out the list. So there are 2 main ways to find and download App Lab games from within your headset. The first way that I know of, you go into the store, then you go into the search bar, and you have to type the name of the game you want pretty much precisely. So if you make a mistake, sometimes it doesn't come up. But if you know the exact name of the game, you type that in and you'll find your game, but it'll be right at the bottom of the search results, hidden behind this little button that you have to press in order to reveal it, like some dirty little secret. Now once you click on it, you click View Details and it will take you to the App Lab store where you can then download the game straight to your headset. The other way to access App Lab content is through your Oculus browser. So go into your browser, then type into the URL field applab.games. So that's applab.games. And you'll come up with a whole list of App Lab games, and there are quite a few there to choose from, but if you want to see all of them, that's where they are. Then you just select the one you want to, download it. Now finally, you can also see these same games on SideQuest. So SideQuest is an app you can download on your phone, you can download it on your computer, or you can view it through your browser on your Oculus Quest headset, and from there you can access SideQuest games which need to be side-loaded, or App Lab titles which can be downloaded directly to your headset. We have a few free games on this list and I'm going to start with those. Now the title of our first game sounds like something your mum might say when you're at the dinner table and you ask for seconds. Help Yourself is a first-person shooter puzzle game that has a really unique mechanic involving clones.
I'm your clone. Who are you? My clone. And who am I? You're not you. Who are you if I'm not me? I'm you, but I'm not me. Are you me or am I you?
So let me give you an example. I have to destroy both of these targets to complete the puzzle. I also have both of these spawn points here. So I start by spawning one of my clones, with which I have 2 at my disposal. I then get my gun, reload it, and shoot the target, but of course I cannot reach the other target. So what I need to do is restart the level, then spawn my other clone in that second spawn point. Now to see that person I'm waving to there, that's actually the recording of my first attempt. So while I'm shooting this target, my clone from my first attempt is shooting the other target, and thus I complete the puzzle. And this game mechanic gives a lot of really interesting ways to solve puzzles. For example, in my first attempt, I'm throwing guns over to what is a blank space over the other side. Then when I restart and spawn a second clone, then the first clone from my first attempt is throwing those guns over, which I can then grab, reload, and shoot those robots. It's probably the most innovative puzzle first-person shooter I've played in virtual reality since Superhot VR, and it's completely free. There's also really no artificial movement involved, so if you do suffer from motion sickness, then this is probably going to be a nice, comfortable game for you. Even though the game is free, there is quite a few levels to choose from, and there's also quite a bit of variety in the puzzles you solve. For example, in this particular level, the clones are mirroring my movement, and so I have to solve this puzzle using that particular mechanic. So I highly recommend checking this one out. Now my next freebie is called Long Live the Cube and proves that you don't have to have fantastic graphics in order to have a good game. Yes, this one is all about the gameplay and it's another puzzle game. It's quite a simple concept, but there's a lot of challenging levels in this one that will have you scratching your head. So you have this happy looking cube that leaves this building and has to then enter the other building on the other side of the board. But in order to do that, you have to remove these cubes out of the way by sliding them so the happy looking fella can reach the other side of the board unimpeded. Now, of course, it's not as simple as it might sound, as you need to slide some cubes out of the way before you can slide others, and you have to move those blocks out of the way before the happy cube reaches them, otherwise it's game over. And you have to do this in the fewest moves possible to score 3 diamonds out of 3 diamonds, so there's some extra challenge there. Try to get the best score on each one. Now there's 20 levels in total and they do get really challenging. Now I will admit I sucked at this game, but despite that I really enjoyed it. However, there is different difficulty modes as well if you want to make it a bit easier on yourself. There's also a multiplayer mode where you can play co-op with another person. Now I didn't get to play the multiplayer mode myself, but I imagine it'd be even more fun if you get a friend on board to play with you. So if you are looking for a free single player or co-op puzzler, then I think you'll find this one both fun and addictive. Now speaking of free games, this next one is a classic. It's existed on SideQuest since 2019 and was voted one of the best games on SideQuest, and with good reason. This is T for God, and it's the first game I ever played which had procedurally generated environments that fit within your play space. So you can walk through the entire game using your actual legs, no teleportation involved, no thumbstick movement. But you do need a play space that's at least 2 meters by 2 meters, otherwise you can run into trouble. For example, my play space is a bit too small for this game, so this happened when recording this video. You've also got to be super aware of anyone, any kids, any pets that enter your play space to make sure you don't hit them or otherwise step on them. What makes T for God so good for me is the immersion. Now of course the way you move in the game adds to that massively, but the atmosphere is also quite amazing. It has a nice soundtrack, a wide range of spaces to explore from tight claustrophobic corridors to wide open expanses. And there's also quite a lot to this game. There's quite a few items to collect, upgrades to install and game modes to try out. For example, you can choose from a more arcade gameplay mode with checkpoints and simpler gameplay, or a roguelite gameplay mode which is run based and more complex and focused on exploration rather than combat. And then there's all the other things like the modifiers you can activate during each game, or upgrade you unlock using experience points. So really there's no shortage of content here, and so hopefully you can see why T for God has been included as one of my best App Lab games. And that brings us on to our next game, which is kind of free and kind of not. So the multiplayer mode is free. You can download and play the multiplayer for free, but the single player game you have to pay for, although it's only $3.99 US. And really, what can you buy with $3.99 US? Not much these days, so it's well worth downloading the multiplayer experience for free. Try it out, and if you enjoy it, then invest a few pennies for the single player experience of our next game, STARFIGHTER ARDUXIM. Now this is a spaceflight combat game, and in the paid single player campaign you get about 14 missions. Now the first 4 missions or so are quite easy kind of tutorial missions, but after those you get into the more meatier and interesting missions. Now I should mention that this game has a bunch of different settings, such as having refresh rate of up to 120Hz for your Oculus Quest 2. But unfortunately it doesn't seem to have many comfort options, and it is a fairly intense game, so if you do suffer from motion sickness, then I would definitely be trying out the free multiplayer version first before purchasing the game, just in case you find it too intense. Now what can I say about this game except that the gameplay is actually quite fun. Now the graphics are okay and the voice acting is pretty bad.
We're heading into the field. Watch our 6.
But for your $3.99 you get a really decent little space shooter here. For example, in one level I had to take on this kind of big mothership that had multiple turrets on top of its deck. It reminded me of something out of Star Wars, like taking on the Death Star, but this level was just one of many instances where the gameplay felt really cool, having to swoop in real close, take out as many turrets as I could while avoiding the incoming flak. Now the missions are a fairly standard affair, things like defend and protect or seek and destroy kind of missions. These things you've probably seen in games before. So if you have the stomach for this type of game, flying a spacecraft and having dogfights in outer space just works fantastically well in VR, and so this game is well worth picking up, especially for the paltry sum of $399. Now if you've seen this next game before, it's still well worth sticking around for this next part of the video because there's been some recent updates. In fact, I included this game on a previous top 10 App Lab video, but I'm including it again on this list because of these recent changes and updates to the game. So this is the VR RPG ARCAXER, and before we get into it, take a look at the store rating on this game. 73 ratings and a score of 4.8 stars out of 5, which pretty much says it all. So to sum this game up as best I can, you have different player classes to choose from, like a fighter, a thief or a mage. You have this whole overworld environment to explore and different dungeons within the overworld, including this main dungeon called the Stack. Now this is a procedurally generated dungeon with many levels, and these dungeons are filled with a random assortment of loot, monsters and traps. Now earlier in the year I interviewed the developers of ARCAXER, and one thing these guys know how to do is pull off an RPG in virtual reality. It has all the different things you'd expect with a good RPG, like leveling up and different stats, traits and abilities, but one of the things I really like is the turn-based combat system, which is a great mix of the classic RPG number crunching battle combined with the movement of virtual reality, as you often have to dodge incoming attacks or use your motion controllers to aim your attack at the enemy. So at the start of this video segment I mentioned some new updates, and these new updates include a new challenge mode which provides 2 new classes. There's the very chaotic Dark Knight mode where you get random stuff every few levels. Then there's the Blue Mage mode where you learn your abilities by stealing them from enemies. So these new modes add an extra spin and new challenge to the game. They've also added this new casino content patch. So in this latest patch you get to explore a whole casino, you get to play some slot machines, there's also this other game, this coin pusher game that you can play, and these allow you to win tokens or lose them all trying. There's also an additional casino themed dungeon that goes along with this content patch too. And so there's so much more to this game than I can cover in this video. I've really just touched the surface. There's mini games, there's puzzles to solve, boss fights to be had, and it really has a unique, cool little story behind it too. So as you can tell by now, I'm a big fan of this game, but don't just take my word for it, because if you like the look of this game, there is a demo available on App Lab, so you can give it a try before you invest in the full game. Whether you like this next game or not, all depends on whether you like swinging.
Yeah, baby, yeah!
I'm not talking about that kind of swinging, I mean this kind. This is WINDLANDS. It's first released as a PC VR title back in 2016 before making its way to App Lab, and it's a VR adventure platforming game where you explore your environment by walking, running, jumping and swinging. I mean swinging using ropes and hooks. Sorry Austin. So gameplay mainly revolves around exploration. You have these large open worlds and you have to navigate yourself from point A to point B by finding the best routes to get to where you need to go, and you'll be mainly using your grappling hooks to traverse large distances and gaps, like some Spider-Man or Tarzan. Now as you explore you'll find collectibles like these runes, and you hear bits and pieces of story. Now the reason why this game makes my list is because it's refreshingly unique. It relies mainly on exploration, taking in your surroundings and navigating through this surreal and awe-inspiring landscape. And despite there being no fast-paced action, running or gunning, it's still a very thrilling experience. Gaining momentum by swinging from one object to the next can be quite difficult to achieve, but when you do it, it's a breathtaking experience that gives you a sense of accomplishment. Now I'm playing this game on hard difficulty, meaning that I can only attach my grapple hooks to the leaves of trees and shrubs, which makes things a lot more challenging than the easier modes where you're able to attach your grapples to most objects. So if you are looking for a challenge, I do recommend the hard mode difficulty setting. Now you probably realise by looking at the footage that this can be a fairly intense game, so if you do suffer from motion sickness, just be aware of that. But there are some comfort options to help. Now before we finish up on this game, I just want to mention the level design as well. I found the level design to be well done. It really encourages you and inspires you to explore your environment. For example, on this level, I saw this giant robot in the distance, and the first thing I want to do is get over there to unravel the mystery of what that is and what's inside. So really hats off to the developers who have made a game that is just as good to play in 2021 as it was when it's first released back in 2016. So now for a change of pace, this is WARCHASM. So most of us remember the minecart scenes from Indiana Jones.
What are you doing?
Shortcut!
Yes,
Shortcut!
Well, WARCHASM is like the futuristic version of that, featuring laser guns and droids. So gameplay is fairly simple. You have to ride this minecart all the while taking out the variety of droids that try to attack you. Now you'll be dodging incoming fire or deploying your shield to protect yourself, as well as picking up power-ups that they drop along the way. There are also other obstacles that require you to think and move fast in order to dodge them, including obstacles on the tracks that you'll have to actually tilt the car to avoid, and mixes up the gameplay a little bit. Now there's a bunch of different environments to unlock, and you unlock these by earning stars on the levels that you play. Each of these worlds has a series of stages, and you have different weapons to choose from, including different difficulty settings and different specials, like these rocket launcher and grenade launcher type weapons that are located in holsters on your back. Now the reason why I chose this one to be on my list is because it's just real simple but well made, polished arcade action fun. There's a great variety of obstacles and enemies to keep it interesting and challenging, and all the ducking, dodging and squatting gives you a bit of a workout too. Now as you can probably tell, this one, if you do suffer from motion sickness, might be a bit too intense, so just be aware of that. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the developer of the game has generously given me 2 codes to give away, so if you're interested in this game and want to be in with a chance of winning, let me know in the comment section below if you would like to win a code, and I'll choose a couple of lucky people at random. Now a few of the games I've featured aren't friendly to those with motion sickness, but this game, Color Connect, is completely comfortable. It's a seated puzzle game, and like most good puzzle games, it's quite a simple concept that's easy to get to grips with but difficult to master. So currently this game has over 50 levels to complete. Now the first levels are fairly simple and are designed to introduce you to the game. So what this game involves is you have this wireframe model of a shape, and you have to get the colour from point A to point B by making it travel along the wireframe of the model. And you try to do this in as few moves as possible to earn more stars. And so what makes this game so challenging is that you need to make the colours pass through each of the nodes on the shape. And each node can only be occupied by one colour. Added to that, there can often be more than one colour that you have to deal with on a wireframe. So you can probably see that it can get quite complicated quite quickly, and involves a lot of planning in order to find the best route to solve the puzzle in as few moves as possible. Added to that, the game has a pretty chill soundtrack. So if you're in the market for a relaxing but at the same time challenging puzzle that requires a bit of thought and planning, then I reckon Color Connect is well worth checking out. So our next game, All-in-One Sports VR, is a great little multiplayer game. It's okay single player too, but multiplayer is really where the fun's at. So you've got your own little customizable character, and there's a range of different sports that you can play and compete with someone else. I pretty much found all of the sports enjoyable. Well, all of them except for one. Boxing was a bit of a letdown. I was expecting to fight someone one-on-one, but instead you get this rhythm game and this punching bag game, which are okay, but definitely not as good as PvP in my opinion. Now my favourite game out of all of them had to be billiards. The physics seemed to work quite well, and the handling of the cue was pretty good. Now I would say pretty much all of the games have decent physics, and the controls are good for the most part. Now when I did last play this game, there was some jankiness with some of the sports, nothing game breaking as such, but for example in the basketball game it felt a bit weird holding the ball. My hand felt at an odd angle when making shots. Didn't ruin the game for me, just took a bit of getting used to. Other than that, the developers should really be commended for including so many sports that work well within one game. So if you're after something competitive and you miss the days of playing Wii Sports with a mate, then All-in-One Sports VR could be for you. What the Quest really needs is more rhythm games. Said no one ever. With some exceptions like Pistol Whip, it has to be said that I'm not the biggest fan of rhythm-based games. Yet this next game, Ragnarok, has made my top 10 App Lab list, which says something about how good it is. So you have both solo and PvP modes. I haven't tried the PvP mode, although you can play with up to 6 players PvP and it sounds pretty awesome. So you got a bunch of tracks to choose from. There's quite a selection here, as well as leaderboards for each track. And each track has an easy, normal and hard mode. So in this game you play as a Viking captain who's competing in a ship race. You have 2 hammers and you have to crush the incoming runes in sync with the music. Now hitting a sequence of runes without any mistakes accumulates combo energy in your hammers, and that will enable you to activate a speed boost for your ship. The better you perform, the further your ship goes, and the more likely you are to win a bronze, silver or even a gold medal. And for me, that's what separates this rhythm game from other rhythm games, this interesting racing rhythm mechanic and these awesome environments that you get to race in. And that's not even mentioning the Viking tunes that you get to play along to, which are pretty epic. Last but not least is a long-standing favourite of mine. This is Gladius, and I played it back in Feb 2020 via Discord when it was only available via Discord. Then when it was released on SideQuest in October that same year, I played it then too. And now I am featuring it again in my top 10 App Lab list because this is such a legendary game, it deserves another shout out. Now just a quick reminder, if you do like this video, a quick thumbs up is much appreciated and really helps me out. Now back to Gladius. Now obviously this is a gladiatorial combat game. You earn money in the arena, and with that money you can buy a ton of different weapons and armor, shields, helmets, and the number of different weapons you get to choose from is actually quite impressive. So as mentioned, you earn money to buy all of this stuff in the arena. So there's a bunch of different modes you can choose from. There's a basic endless mode, and as you begin winning matches you increase in fame level. You basically level up and begin to unlock the other modes. Now the reason why I love this game is the combat. It's a lot of fun, and there's not much like it on the Quest apart from say Gorn, which is quite similar, although Gorn tends to be more comical whereas this is more realistic. How your opponents react to your hits, the level of blood and gore, it's just something I really love about this game. It just feels super satisfying to load yourself up with a bunch of weapons, go into the arena and just block, parry, dodge, slice, stab, cut, butcher and decapitate your way to victory. There's also a ton of options, so you can tailor the game to your preferences, including options to reduce gore, although I have no idea why you'd want to do that. And there are hidden secrets, like these 2 lightsabers. They're hidden somewhere in the game and they're pretty devastating. Now let me talk about some of the maps and modes you unlock in the game. So this is one of the things you unlock. This is the bridge map, which includes this mounted crossbow. There is also this marketplace map where you get to kill gladiators like you would normally in the other modes, except to earn money what you have to do is decapitate the gladiator, then enter the body part into this pot and you'll get money according to whatever body part you deposit there. There's even chariot racing, which admittedly isn't my favourite game mode, but is still a nice addition. And I find to enjoy a game like this, you do need to clear a bit of space around you. I find about 2 meters by 2 meters to be perfect. And if you really get into this game, it's one of the most fun workouts you can have on your Oculus Quest. So what do you think of that list? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you have a suggestion for an App Lab game that might be worth checking out for a future list, let me know too, because I'll certainly check it out and maybe I'll include it in a future top 10 App Lab video. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching and I'll see you in my next video.